everybody, it's Cheyenne. I'm back with my second video. Happy to see you guys again. I want to thank everybody who watched my first video, which was so difficult for me to film. If you haven't watched it, I insist, or I recommend that you watch Surviving Death, which was a big event in my life, and it was extremely difficult for me to film, but I am so happy that I filmed it. Now there is an aftermath because the title of this video, as I'm sure you've seen, is called My Stalker Storytime. But I'm gonna start in the present. Because after I posted my video, Surviving Death, my stalker was back. So, what happened after I posted this video, this stalker, let's call him Boris. Boris decided that he was going to create a fake profile on Instagram, one of many fake profiles he has created over the past 3 years. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, that is how long this has been going on, but we'll get into that a little bit later. So Boris creates this fake profile and takes snapshots of my video where, I'm half blinking, so I look completely drunk. So he takes these screenshots, posts them, and says that I'm lying, this never happened, I'm faking all of the scars that I have on my body. There's no such thing as online gambling. Okay. That hospitals don't hold on to records. Okay, Boris. Okay, whatever you say. So that really opened up an old wound that I thought was closed, but it opened up again, and that's why this story time is going to be about my stalker Boris that stopped for about 6 months, but that reared his ugly head again after I posted this extremely personal video about my past. I think it's absolutely atrocious and disgusting for someone to use somebody's past against them, to mock them, to humiliate them online, to bully them, to harass them. But needless to say, despite all of that, Boris lives 1 minute away from me. Just think about that for a second. This person lives 1 minute away from me, and I'm going to tell you why I'm in this situation and why no action has been taken, not on my part, but on the police's part. You all know I live in France. For those of you that follow me on Instagram or Facebook, I'm not going to tell you which village I live in France, but I do live in a very small village. Unfortunately, we all know that in small villages, everybody knows everything about everybody. The upside of living in a village is that you have beautiful scenery, people are quaint, they're friendly, you know your local baker, your butcher, blah, 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 candlestick maker. You know what I mean. So this is where my story starts. During the first confinement, I did not handle it well. I was constantly afraid. I became paranoid. We were on lockdown. You needed to have this kind of permission slip or reason why you were leaving your home. You could get arrested at any moment. and you could get stopped by the cops at any moment that we're going to ask you, can we see what we need a reason as to why you're outside. Either you're going to the doctors or you're buying food. Those are pretty much the only reasons why you should be allowed out of your house. The rest of the time, we had to stay indoors. On this particular day, I was not feeling well at all. I had horrible anxiety. I suffer from anxiety and depression. I have been open about that in my first video. And I decided that maybe it would be good for me to get on my bicycle and to head to the small store down the street and just to buy a couple of items for my mother who was sick that weekend. So I hop on my bike, nobody in the streets, and I head to the supermarkets. I buy what I need that I put in a backpack. I get back on my bike. And as I'm on my way home, I can feel that there is a large vehicle behind me. Now, in France, you have to understand that the police sometimes drive in these large navy blue vans. And that's what I was seeing in my peripheral vision. I was seeing this large navy blue van approaching me, and I thought, okay, they're going to stop me. They're going to ask for my pass as to why I'm outside. So I slow down. But I hear the door sliding open, which made me think of like some kind of caravan or something like that. And as I'm sitting there thinking, that sounds odd for a police vehicle, I am grabbed from behind by two men and pulled inside this van that reeked of pee, beer, and other nasty substances. There was loud music playing. They were all laughing. I think they may have all been under the influence. They probably were. And they threw me onto the floorboard of this vehicle. And I'm not really sure what happened because I blacked out. I don't even know how I made it home that day. But I was very fortunate because I was SA'd that day. That was confirmed later on that day when I decided to finally open up to my mother, who found me on my bed, shivering, crying, unable to speak. I was sent to my doctor, who examined me, and unfortunately, we all knew what happened in that van. This is also something that's very difficult for me to tell you, but it was a turning point for me because it had been so incredibly hard for me to get past what happened 14 years ago, the story I told you in my first video. I had been trying to recover, gaining strength, gaining confidence in myself, trusting people again. And now this happens. I am at an all-time low, so I start shutting myself inside my bedroom door. I refuse to leave the house. And when the police were called, they treated me like I was the suspect, like it was my fault, like I had nothing better to do than invent this crazy story because, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you how they work here. They basically drove to the supermarket, watched their CCTV, saw me enter, buy my items, and leave, and then afterwards calculated the time it would have taken for me to get back home on my bicycle. Their conclusion was, there's no way you can be SA'd in 13 minutes. I want you to think about that for a moment. There's no way you can be SA'd in 13 minutes. For those of us that watch true crime and that live in the real world, we all know that murders can happen in 5 seconds. Murders can happen in 5 seconds. But apparently, in this village, being essayed would probably take, I don't know, 24 hours a week. 13 minutes, apparently, to them is out of this world. Doesn't make sense. Sounds fictional. Sounds like a Dr. Seuss tale. The police then would show up here at my house, uninvited. Nobody here had any warning they were coming. They would show up at 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning while I was still half asleep in my bed. They would enter my room, armed, close the door, and start interrogating me. This lasted for weeks. They brought me down to the station to make a statement. Despite knowing that I was fragile physically, mentally, and emotionally, they interviewed me for 6 hours with no breaks, no water. I was not interviewed by a woman, but by 3 very, very rude police officers that just pushed the buttons that represented my vulnerabilities, that humiliated me, that really, it's very difficult for me to speak about this, but I really felt like I was treated like the worst possible human being on this planet. They had no empathy, they had no sympathy. They just treated me like garbage, like something they found on the side of the road. It was awful. They did the same to my mother. It was a nightmare. It was a nightmare. Now, after this happened, I posted a video and a post on different social media platforms telling women in this neighborhood, in this little town, to be careful. I said, be careful if you're alone. There is a large navy blue caravan or van of some sorts. Please be on the lookout. 3 different women saw this navy blue van or caravan or whatever it was, with young men in it, blasting music, laughing, under the influence. They called the same police station. Nothing was done. Nothing was done. We were all just a joke. Just a joke. Now, here comes my stalker. He enters this story. So Boris, instead of being a supportive friend, he had been a friend of the family's. And instead of supporting us, he turned into a vile human being. First of all, by saying that I was lying, that this was just a figment of my imagination. Apparently, the 3 other women, that was a figment of their imagination too. There was no navy blue van. Apparently, the assessment my doctor made that I had been essayed, apparently my doctor was lying too. I was doing this for attention because I was bored. Now, I want to share something with you that is maybe a little bit disturbing. So if you feel at any point in this story, because it's a story time within a story time within a story time, but if you feel that it gets a little bit too much because we're dealing with somebody violating my privacy at home in my bedroom, if that may be triggering for you, then please click out or just fast forward a minute. So I was very, very anxious. I was afraid to leave the house at this point, even more so than when the confinement started. My doctor had prescribed me anti-anxiety pills, and they were pretty heavy duty. On this particular day, I was in my room, I had taken my medicine, and I was in and out of sleep. Boris comes over and, without anyone realizing it, enters my bedroom and takes a picture of me asleep on the bed, mouth half open. It's not like we look like Angelina Jolie when we're sleeping. And he took a picture of me sleeping and then posted it on these fake, and then posted these pictures of me on the first fake profile he created. That's how all this began. And it then continued. He started posting pictures of me saying that what happened March 31st never happened. That was the beginning of the end as far as the bullying and social harassment. The bullying and the social media harassment, because he was also talking to our friends and saying that I was the villain in this story, that it was my fault. He also started saying horrible things about my mother, dragging us both under the bus and saying awful things about us because we're women, because he's a sad old man, because nobody likes him. In fact, he has a nickname around here. They call him the P word of La Torche, La Torche being a famous beach where surfers go. Nobody likes him in this village. He has an extremely bad reputation for giving attention and talking and being extremely inappropriate to underage girls. Girls at the beach, girls who are surfing, girls who are there with their families, and myself included. I'm not underage, obviously, but that did not stop him. Now, he continued because I was feeding into his narrative. At first, these fake social media profiles were very humiliating. I was so angry and I didn't know how to react because this had never happened to me before. So I decided to distance myself from this village and I decided to leave and take a break. But that's not where the bullying stopped. That's not where the social media harassment stopped. It never did stop. And in part 2 of this video, I am going to continue to tell you what happened when I fled this village to find peace, to find some kind of balance in my life, to escape the horrendous things I had just gone through here, to distance myself from the pain I was feeling, from this environment. I needed a break because I wasn't getting it here. Not from the police, not from friends who had also believed what Boris was saying. And Boris is a giant nothing. But he likes to talk and talk and talk and talk. And sadly, that's not where the story ends because he made it his mission. And he still is making it his mission to apparently destroy me online. Why? Because he has nothing else to do? Because apparently he thinks women are the weaker sex. But the weaker sex doesn't hide because I'm right here talking to you. And he is still underground, hiding behind fake profiles. I really hope his daughters never find out what kind of human being he is. Because what I tell you in part 2 makes part 1 seem like a joke. like a joke. So, I want to thank you all for watching. Thank you all for sticking around and hearing this first part. The second part is much darker. It's much scarier, much more violent. And this is the beginning of my stalker experience. If you have experienced anything like this, online bullying, harassment, please leave it in the comments below or send me a message. I'd like to open up this topic because we need to have this communication, the ability to talk about things like this, things that really matter. This type of topic shouldn't be taboo, and I am not afraid to talk about this. I am not the one hiding. So, again, who is the weaker of the sex? The one who is hiding or the one who is filming this and talking about it? Thank you so much for watching this video. Please don't forget to subscribe. Maybe give this video a little like. Maybe leave a little comment below sharing your opinions. Maybe your story, your experiences, advice. We're not alone in this. We're not alone. Please remember that. So I want to thank you all, and I will see you next time for part 2.